Welcome everybody to this morning's Financial and Administrative Services Committee. On this committee are myself, Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Berg, and Mayor Clayton. We'll start off with our land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge these lands that have been home to diverse and sovereign nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. And I'll look for somebody to do an adoption of the agenda. Councillor Berg, please.
Chair Palat. I would like to move that committee adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Berg. Councillor Palat in favor.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
Councillor O'Connor in favor.
Carried. Sorry, I didn't pop up on my screen. Thanks for that. I don't think we have any delegations this morning. So we'll go to our reports and we'll start off with our service area update with Chief Whiteway, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Palat. So within assessment and taxation, tax notices have been mailed and property owners should have received them by now. So anyone who's not received their tax notice, please reach out to our tax department. And just a reminder that property taxes are due June 28th this year. Finance has ramped up budget preparation for the 2025 budget, so working with departments on preparing the operating, staffing, and capital budgets for the upcoming years. Procurement currently has 10 bids on the market. They can be all found online. Surplus auctions are continuing. The bike auction was a success. However, there still was some bikes available, so those will be reposted at govdeals.ca. In GIS and IT, the satellite imagery has been captured with the initial delivery received, and these images should be available online in the online viewer in the month of June. In addition, an updated Parks and Rec amenities application will be released this week on the city's website. This application gives location and site-specific information for both summer and winter amenities throughout the city, such as playgrounds, orchards, outdoor courts, sports fields, and outdoor rinks. And finally, a grants management solution will see its first module in production for intergovernmental affairs early next week, with more departments expected to come online in the coming weeks. And that concludes my update.
Okay, thank you for that, Chief Whiteway. Any questions for Director? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item in our agenda, our 2024 Q1 financial report, and I'll turn that back to Chief Whiteway, please, to introduce.
Thank you again, Chair Palat. So today, the recommendation is that the Financial and Administrative Services Committee recommends Council receive the unaudited financial statements and supporting information for the period ending March 31st, 2024 for information. Respectfully, I'll assume you've all reviewed the agenda package, but I will highlight a few things from the appendix. Starting on page 3 is the statement of financial position. This presents the city's financial and non-financial assets as well as financial liabilities. Total financial assets of the city as of March 31st, 2024 are $297 million. Total financial assets for the same period in the prior year was just slightly lower at $294 million. Financial liabilities for the city as of March 31st were $229 million, This is an increase of $1.5 million from the same period last year. Predominantly, this is due to higher deferred operating revenues, accounts payable, and TIPS. Non-financial assets as of March 31st, which consists of assets that are not easily transferable to cash, totaled $722 million. The most significant item included in non-financial assets are tangible capital assets, with a value of $712 million. Overall, the city has a total accumulated surplus of $790 million. This will be utilized to support current year and future services. This accumulated surplus position indicates that the city has the net resources available to provide future services, consisting of both cash and non-cash components. Moving on to pages 4 and 5 of the appendix, you'll see the Statement of Operations, which reports on the revenues, expenses, and results of the city as of March 31st, 2024. Revenue collected as of that date has increased slightly from the same period last year. User fees and sales of goods increased with higher membership and advertising sales. Interest and investment income has increased as well by approximately $590,000 over last year. The city's total expenditures to date are $50.5 million, quite similar to this time last year. So as of March 31st, the Statement of Operations does present a shortfall of $37.5 million. A shortfall at the end of the first quarter is typical for the city, as property taxes, accounting for a substantial portion of the city's annual income, are only levied within the second quarter. Operating variances are beginning on page 6, and they're on page 7 as well. These are the results of the differences between the approved budget and what the actual financial results are expected to be by year end. For the reporting period ending March 31st, the city is projecting a shortfall from budget of approximately $1 million. This equates to approximately 0.49% of the city's total operating budget. Management actively monitors the city's fiscal landscape and will implement mitigating strategies as required throughout the year to ensure that we are closer to a break-even position. Currently, the greatest pressures on this year's operating budget are an anticipated shortfall in court fine revenues, as well as lower than expected Cedar Point tenant revenues. These shortfalls are being partially offset by surpluses from various departments relating to items such as new funding opportunities, increased sales, and anticipated savings in other departments. Salary vacancies are presented on page 8. The city had an overall cost of wages and benefits that was slightly higher than budget. The year-to-date shortfall from budget is relating to timing of expenditures, which results in higher benefits percentage for the first part of the year, evening out later on. Budgeted salaries for 2024 have increased over the prior year in relation to contractual obligations, as well as an increase in budgeted positions, mostly attributable to new positions in the Grande Prairie Police Service. Operating reserves are presented on page 10. These are the restricted portion of the city's accumulated surplus, and all decisions made with regards to the city's reserves are approved by council in accordance with Policy 346. As of March 31st, 2024, the city has $107 million in reserves. Capital projects are summarized on pages 11 to 13. As of March 31st, 2024, there is $94 million in active capital projects, with approximately $23 million coming from $23 million from grants, and the remainder funded through capital tax reserves and debt. Lastly, long-term debt is presented on page 14 of the appendix, and the outstanding balance as of March 31st, 2024 is $129 million. The city is well within the provincially prescribed debt limit at the end of 2023, with $107 million remaining. This is at Council's 80% policy of provincially prescribed debt limit. So in conclusion, the city is currently anticipating a shortfall of approximately $1 million at year end. However, management is continually monitoring and will implement mitigating strategies as deemed appropriate to reduce the likelihood of recognizing a shortfall by year end. The city maintains a net financial asset position and accumulated surplus, indicating that there are sufficient resources to support future services. And we are well within the provincially prescribed debt and servicing limits as required by the MGA. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Chief Wayway. Any questions for Councillor Burke?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Palat. So I have two questions. I'll start off with the big one, court fine revenue. It looks like that's down $2.2 million or projected to be down $2.2 million. So that's one number that stands out to me. The rest are fairly reasonable, I guess. is that not something that we anticipated or budgeted? Because I know that last year that the province had changed some of the rules around photo radar and a few other things, but $2.2 million is a pretty big bite.
Thank you, through the chair. So you are correct. We did reduce the revenue expenses going into 2024. So that was approved at deliberations. But yes, we are still anticipating, for a number of reasons, a shortfall in that revenue line, in addition to what we've already dropped for budget. And there is a number of reasons, and I do know that during the Protective and Public Services Committee, there will be an update from GPPS, but there is some vacancies within that area, so there is not a full complement of officers for traffic enforcement, so that does reduce the amount of potential court fines that could be collected. You will see a reflection of expenditure savings in the GPPS operating budget as a result of those decreased revenues. So yes, we are expecting less revenue, but we will see salary savings as well as our contract with Global. There will be some savings there as well.
Okay, thanks, Chief Whiteway.
Just to expand on that, I'm just curious, and maybe it'll be a question later on in the next meeting, but is there some seasonality to that, I guess, as far as revenue when it comes from court fine revenue, with just thinking -30 in January versus +15 in May about issuing tickets? Is there any seasonality that we would see a difference with our court fine revenues?
Thank you for the question. I don't know the answer to that question. I think that would be best asked to, I'm not sure if Chief Lemieux has an answer.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. So I don't think it's so much seasonality, but there is certainly sometimes a lengthy delay in terms of when we recoup those funds, because it has to go through sometimes a court process, so a lengthy process, but not so much seasonality. There might be a slight seasonality, but not significant.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question for myself. When I look at the FTE budget of 774 and then the actual count, we have a fair amount less in our actual count, and our salaries are almost kind of a wash here on that for what we were anticipating. Are we concerned about that moving forward, that variance could grow with the salary side of it, with having less FTEs than what was budgeted versus actual?
Thank you, Chair Palat. When we work through our forecasts, we take exactly that into consideration. So knowing what we have as vacancies, knowing the time that it takes to recruit and start to onboard has all been built into the forecast that you see today. So no, we are not concerned with having significant changes from what's been forecasted.
Okay, no, thanks for that, Councillor Burke, and then Mayor Clayton.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Palat. So one other question was just simply around Cedar Point, and I understand that rent revenue is off. When do we anticipate that building will be full of tenants and we're seeing what was projected for revenue? That may not be a question necessarily for you, but I'll throw it out there.
Thank you, Councillor Berg. I could certainly start, and if Chief Lemieux would like to add to it. So what we were looking at is currently we prepared the forecast. When we prepared the forecast, we had 37 tenants in the Phase 1 units. There's 61 available, so there's about 24 vacancies. We are forecasting to have those filled gradually throughout the year and are hoping to have it at max capacity, full capacity by November. So that's what's been built into the forecast that you see. For Phase 3 tenants, we figured that it would take a few months, and expecting Phase 3 tenants to begin moving in gradually in June and July to grow to the full 40 occupancy by August. In addition, there was a number of departments that moved into Cedar Point. However, that was later than anticipated. When we built the budget for Cedar Point, there was internal revenue for those anticipated rent costs. So those two would not have been recorded, as they didn't move in until April. So we are short a few months of that. So that's what we've built into the forecast going forward this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Clayton?
Thanks, Chair Plot. Question for Chief Lemieux in regards to the integrated approach to moving people into Cedar Point. Chief Whiteway just mentioned that you're expecting the B3 units to be full by November. That's a little slower than I think was originally anticipated. Can you explain that to me?
Certainly, through the chair. So the strategy that we're using is that we are very strategic as to who we let into the building. I mean, we could fill the building and then we'd have probably 60% eviction. So we have to be very careful. We have to make sure that people are ready, and that's why it's taking longer than expected. We're working very closely with seed, mustard seed, and making sure that we have the right tenants. So that's why it's taken probably a little bit longer than we had anticipated.
And so for either you or the CFO, what are we actualizing for estimates of revenue in the transitional units on the third floor? When do we start to see, what quarter are we starting to see revenue in regards to those units?
I can answer that one. So we've got a plan to start at some point in June to move people into that. And again, that'll be gradual with, I believe it's August where we feel like we'll be at capacity.
Okay, great. If I can, I have another question. It was more of a comment, I guess, regarding Councillor Berg's questions. If you recall, the province made their changes to the automated traffic enforcement, and at that time, Minister of Transportation indicated that there would be a consultation period for municipalities. The CAO and I have heard that it's going to be coming up shortly. And I think the big part of that, the conversation that is a little bit misinterpreted and unfortunate, is that there appears to be I'll call it thought that the municipalities are getting half of the revenue, and the reality is we're not. We're getting about 25% of the revenue, and so when it's messaged that the municipalities are getting half, we're actually not. We're getting half of a half, and so. Full expectation that municipalities will advocate strongly with the Minister of Transportation as well as the Minister of Public Safety in regards to the significant impact that the financial changes to this policy will have to municipalities. So, as mentioned in the somewhat unanticipated larger shortfall than expected, I can tell you that myself and the CAO and GPPS will be advocating hard to the province to find solutions in regards to that financial equation. Thanks.
Thanks for that explanation, Mayor Clayton. Just one other question. I'm not sure if it's for Chief Whiteway or not. I appreciate that we've evolved on our tracking of council's time on when we attendance for meetings and standing meetings. I'm just wondering, has administration looked at us starting to track our external committees as well? I know we're on a lot of external committees as part of council. I don't think sometimes the community realizes just how many committees we're on, but also I hear feedback from some committees saying, hey, we got council members not attending, and I'm just wondering if we've been able to start looking at a mechanism of how we could start capturing our actual attendance at our externals as well. I'm not sure if that's for our CAO or which direction that would go, but.
We are doing a review of some of our externals, so that's some feedback we can take about how administratively burdensome that would be for both council and administration, but we'll take that as a thought to consider.
So is that something that we would need to, I guess for me, I would like to see that be something that become something in the future. I know it would probably take some work to get to it. Is that something that we would need to action a motion on, or just pause it for now and see?
What I would suggest is we are looking at sort of the all-encompassing review, that something will come back to council, and that would be a good time to make all those changes at once. If there was some patience with committee here to wait a little bit, we will be bringing something back to committee for consideration on external and our approach altogether.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Seeing no other questions in the queue, or sorry, Mayor Clayton?
The other piece is internally, I think that between our office, we can start to calculate those numbers as simple as a questionnaire to council monthly in regards to standing committees, because some of them meet once a year. Councillor Berg sits on one that meets once a year. So yeah. I just wanted to quickly say I really appreciate how this report was presented. it looks great. The refresh is great, but it's very easy to read. So thanks to the CFO for that.
Echo that comment. Councillor O'Connor with business, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair Palat. I'd like to move committee recommend council receive the unaudited financial statements and supporting information for the period ending March 31st, 2024 for information.
Okay, thank you for that. It's in order, so please vote. Councillor Plott in favor. And that carries. We do have one item of correspondence, so I'm going to ask if Chief Whiteway could please introduce this as well.
Thank you again, Chair Palat. So we received confirmation from the province on our LGFF funding for the 2024 capital and operating years. So for the City of Grande Prairie, the 2024 LGFF capital is expected to be $7.8 million. This is an increase. For 2023, we received $7.2 million of LGFF funding. The operating portion of $944,000 remains consistent from 2023. Thank you.
Mayor Clayton, thanks for that, Chief Whiteway.
Sorry, I'll do some business and then I had something else. I would move that we receive this correspondence for information.
Okay. Any comments or discussion on that? Seeing none, please vote. Councillor Plott in favor. And that carries. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Plott. The correspondence tweaked my memory for another question I had from the previous report. Chief Whiteway, I know that you on a regular basis do an analysis of revenue, grant streams, et cetera, in comparison to other municipalities. Do you happen to have any statistics in regards to how Grande Prairie or Alberta mid-sized cities are doing in the Federal Canada Building Fund compared to other mid-sized cities across the country?
Through the chair, I don't have that at my fingertips, but it's something we could bring back to council.
Or could you just email it out?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, thanks for that. Mayor Clayton, no other questions on the correspondence. We'll just go down to our outstanding list and back to Chief Whiteway for that, please.
Thank you, Chair Palat. There'll be no changes to the outstanding items list as presented.
Okay, so we'll just look for business arising. Councillor O'Connor, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair Palat. I'd like to move committee receive the May 28th outstanding items list as presented for information.
Okay, thank you for that. Motion's in order. Please vote. Councillor Plott in favor. And that carries. And with that, we will adjourn and we'll be back in about 2 minutes for our next meeting. Thank you.